Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. As the numbers continue to rise, there are now 8 deaths and 700 confirmed infections from the coronavirus in Poland. According to the Polish Health Ministry, over 20,000 coronavirus tests have so far been conducted throughout the country.
The Polish Ministry of Health published the latest data on the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus infections in all voivodeships in Poland. As of this afternoon, the total number has increased to 684. The highest count is in the Mazovian voivodeship and the lowest in the Podlasie region. The latest fatality is a patient in the southern city of Tychy. According to the information released by the Health Inspection Office, the male patient had been visited recently by his friends from the Netherlands. He was 83 and he is the 8th victim claimed by the coronavirus in Poland.
In an interview with the RMF-FM radio station, Polish Minister of Health Łukasz Szumowski said that we should be prepared for the fact that the number of those infected in Poland will rapidly increase in the next few days. Szumowski also added that he is doing everything possible so that Poland avoids what has happened in Italy.
I think that we will have confirmed a few thousand new cases of the coronavirus by the end of this week. That's how it looks. Other countries like Germany or Italy have the same problem. You want to tell us that the worst is yet to come? Yes, we will confirm many more cases of the virus for sure. Many more people will go to the hospitals for sure. People above the age of 80 are especially at risk of becoming infected. And people who are sick. The age of the people who died of coronavirus is not high, but all of them were sick. Is there at least a bit of optimism? I don't think so. We are taking very serious actions like organizing new places for the sick people.
15,000 deaths and 350,000 confirmed cases of infection. That is the latest worldwide toll from the coronavirus pandemic. The worst affected region is Europe, with Italy and Spain facing critical levels of infection. The virus is also rapidly spreading in the United States.
Italy is still struggling with the coronavirus epidemic. Despite the strict preventative measures taken by the government, the situation in the country is very serious. Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced that only companies and institutions crucial to the state's existence will be allowed to continue operating. I decided that all of us together should face this challenge. It is the most difficult situation we have had to face since the end of the war. We are witnessing scenes which are deeply hurting us all and will forever remain in our memory. The decrease in the number of new infections, especially in the centers of the outbreak in Bergamo and Brescia in Lombardy, may suggest that the situation could be slowly stabilizing thanks to these desperate measures. Meanwhile, doctors and special equipment are arriving in the country to help stop the virus. The most recent aid came from Cuba and Russia.
We are solidarity with the people in Italy. Our government sent us here for bring our solidarity here with a compromise with our profession.
Unsettling news comes from Great Britain, where despite the closed pubs, clubs and restaurants, a huge growth in the number of infections has occurred. Many British citizens ignore the warnings and continue to go out, which is accelerating the increase in the number of infections. Prime Minister Boris Johnson appealed to his compatriots not to go outside without good reason.
A point that I think people intuitively understand about the timing of these measures. You've got to impose these interventions in the spread of the epidemic at the moment when they can have the maximum effect. And after all, when the epidemic is hardly spreading at all, that's not the moment to impose curfews and prohibitions on movement and so on and so forth. You've got to wait until, alas, until it's the right moment to do it. And that's always been how we've been guided.
In the meantime, US President Donald Trump described his country's efforts to fight COVID-19 as a national test which the American nation will pass victoriously.
I want to assure the American people that we're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy. We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war, and we're fighting an invisible enemy.
And as if the coronavirus were not enough, Croatia is also dealing with the aftermath of yesterday's earthquake, which hit the capital, Zagreb. The earthquake was the strongest in 140 years, but fortunately there was no damage to the nuclear power plant located near the Slovenian-Croatian border.
An earthquake hit Zagreb at 6:23 a.m. The epicenter was 7 kilometers north of the Croatian capital. According to the Associated Press agency, only a few streets were littered with debris and pieces of broken glass. The earthquake caused a short power blackout. Local fires broke out in some parts of the city. The second earthquake hit Zagreb a few hours later, but fortunately it was much weaker than the major shock. This was the strongest earthquake in Croatia in 140 years.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. A cold night across the country with temperatures ranging between -6 degrees in Szczecin to -1 degree in Warszawa. Cloudless sky is expected in most region. Snowfall will appear over Kraków and Rzeszów. And now over to tomorrow. It will be a very sunny day. Plenty of sunlight will occur across Poland. The temperature will range from 4 degrees on the southeast to 7 degrees along the Baltic coast. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. On Wednesday, sunny weather will be continue. A maximum 7 degrees we will notice on the northwest. On Thursday, temperature will start to rise. We will see from 10 to 11 degrees. On Friday, pressure will drop, but the temperature will increase again to 14 degrees on the west and in central Poland. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight our guest is MARCIN ROSZKOWSKI of Jagiellonian Institute. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we have very interesting thing in our parliament. The new bill, the budget bill, is balanced. Why is this such a big news?
Because Polish budget were not balanced during previous 30 years, I think. It's something new. It's a kind of a promise done by Prime Minister Morawiecki during the campaign and during the previous months. And actually, it's a good direction to go. Let's see what let's also see what our neighbors are doing. Germany also Germans also have their budget balanced.
But
it works.
Germany is an economical powerhouse. Their economy is 4 times the size of ours.
Okay,
their
but
export is
uncomparable. Slowly approaching their average. But generally, to be frank, it's a good idea not to have the debt increased. Polish budget spends less than 30 billion zloty, almost 30 billion zloty, on covering the costs of our debt. So it's a huge amount of cash that is just for paying off and interest of the previous debt we were
so that's amount
having.
About 10% of the state budget.
Of course, so this is a huge number that we want to increase as Poles, and this is a good direction. If there is if we do not have a significant threat to our sovereignty, there is no need to have such a large deficit.
All with increased spending on social issues, all with increased spending on defense.
Yeah, of course, the defense budget is over 2% of GDP, which actually is a benchmark of NATO. Also, the social programs are in the budget, so 500 plus and all the other social and demographic programs that have been introduced during the previous 4 years of law and justice rule. So generally, I see no point on complaining on this balancing of Polish budget.
Speaking about Polish budget, it's important to know how this budget is structured in terms of currencies. The previous budgets and previous debts were mainly issued in foreign currencies, and this government is taken into account that we should have more debt denominated in Polish zloty.
Of course, if Polish economy
Of course, it's not that easy. I mean,
of course, but when Polish economy is doing pretty good, as we are, the GDP growth for previous year was one of the highest in European Union. The prediction for this year is 3.7, if I remember correctly. So generally, we are developing in a fast pace. The unemployment is dropping. The cost of the debt is decreasing. So generally, there is no need to buy to have loans in other currencies, which actually decreases the risks of the costs of future costs of the debt,
or at least removes some of the volatility that may happen.
Of course. So generally, we are benefiting from the hard work of Poles and also from government policies. And the situation, if the situation is good, we are dropping on the debt, and this is a good approach.
This is a good approach, although do we see any dangers in front of this ambitious goal to have balanced budget?
Of course, there was a discussion in the right-wing coalition, ruling coalition. There was this idea of us increase of taxes on a certain amount of rich people, let's say. It has been dropped out. So generally, they were finding in December last year, they were finding a couple of billion zloty to cover the whole DAC by this drop of tax increase. But generally, it's a projection for the whole year. So generally, it will be balanced as a bill. Let's see what happens in December.
Those who read Polish media find out the new ideas of taxing new items, for example, sugar tax, which will be only beneficiary to our health because we eat too much sugar, and making it more expensive will make the usage of this product less accessible, which will benefit our health ultimately. That's kind of peculiar argumentation, isn't it?
We have just finished a report on sugar consumption in Poland as Jagielloński Institute, and the amount of sugar we eat has increased 10 times in the last 30 years, so it's a huge increase. Also, there is a budget incentive. Of course, let's not omit this, but generally there is a threat of the health issues are important also.
Okay, so it's perfectly reasonable tax.
There's also an increase of access on certain taxes on alcohol. So this is probably making some people sad.
Okay, and there is a media are talking about this fiscal prudence of this government, and they want to tax pretty much everything.
But generally, the Smith Institute, I think also a think tank in Poland, issues points the date of tax-free. It's the day when we are not paying the taxes for the government, and we are earning on our own. And the date is closer to 1st of January, not further. So I think we are doing pretty good.
Everything goes in the right direction.
For the time being, of course.
MARCIN ROSZKOWSKI of Jagielloński Institute is ensuring us about that. So how could you
Today I'm
not
pretty
believe?
comfortable with that.
Thank you very much. Well, sir, thank you very much for participating. And that was it for Poland Daily tonight.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Another sunny day ahead of us. Plenty of sunlight will occur across Poland. The temperature will range from 4 degrees on the southeast to 7 along the Baltic coast. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for our continent. In Scandinavia, temperature will rise. We will notice 9 degrees in Oslo, 10 in Stockholm and 3 in Helsinki. In Central Europe, we will see a lot of sunlight, pleasant weather and 20 degrees in Lisbon. Little rainfalls will appear in Athens with 18 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. Do you know the name of Nina Nowak? Probably not, but you should. She became one of the most recognizable Polish ballet dancers in USA. And right now, being 97 years old, she's with me in the studio. Madam, it's absolutely incredible, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's move back in the history and watch how Nina Nowak looked on the stage. Madam, you are 97 years old. You will be soon, on the 23rd of March.
23rd.
23rd of March, yes.
3rd.
And you lived all over the world, in US, and then later on in Venezuela. You speak Polish, Russian, and Spanish, because you had a husband.
And French,
and a
little.
And a little bit
not,
of French.
Not so...
And now, after all of those years and those absolutely rich life, you came back to Poland, to new Poland, to a different Poland as well. What are your impressions of the country right now?
Fantastic. It's beautiful Poland, beautiful Warsaw, and beautiful people.
Are you happy with what we achieved here and after the war, how we rebuilt the country?
Very much so. And I was a present destruction.
Yeah, you've seen the destruction of it, and now you've seen the rebirth of it as well.
The best of a free country, because I saw not free.
And being the solo ballerina and having so much experience in dancing and then later in choreography, what would be your advice to young dancers right now?
To devote themselves, not so much to dancers, because I see that they are devoted a lot. I think that schooling teachers should communicate more from other schools in the world and listen to advices in order to move this art a little higher technically, because here are beautiful people, they are very talented, but you only learn what you are taught. You have to be taught excellently to be excellent artist. I would suggest more to improve, because my student in Russia could win 6 medals, and they were surprised of technique. Here in Poland, the technique should be even higher.
So your message is mostly directed to teachers as well, that we should have better teachers to...
more devoted, more giving opportunity to learn from old school, because new school brought some easiness, but this easiness is not correctness.
I see.
Yes.
And you say to go back.
I have to go back, because I went back. And I had a wonderful results, fantastic results. One of my students could win so many medals, and here, when I saw dancing first role, no Polish dancer dance, but foreign.
Yes, so not Polish dancers dance solo roles in the National Ballet, in Polish National Ballet.
And this makes me a little sad.
It makes you a little sad. So especially coming back to those years when Nijińska was your teacher.
See, I was like a little girl first. So we are very talented people. For dancing, very talented. Yeah, I found very talented people in Caracas, Venezuela, and other country, Latin people are very talented. But I think Polish people are more talented. But the schooling is important. I think that Poland was under regime of Russia, and I don't think it was interesting at the time of promote
the promotion of ballet.
Promotion of Polish.
Yes.
And Poland lost some time for that kind of art. And I hope that will go forward. I am open to discuss and to help, but I found people afraid.
Just to wrap up, if you would like to send a message, not only to dancers, but altogether to people, because you had achievements as a ballet dancer, but you also had an achievements in life as a person, what would you say to young people like me?
If you have some done and you feel that you can be good in that, to do it, that's all. Honestly, not to look for quick, fantastic success, but to love whatever you are doing. It's talking, it's seeing people, or dancing, or singing, or playing piano, or playing violin. Whatever you do, you have to love to do. That wouldn't be, I am going to do, let's go and drink or eat. This is no love for the art. Artista must be dedicated. If not, it's not artist.
And I think it's a great punchline to say a true artist needs to be dedicated. And those are words of Nina Novak, who achieved huge success in the world as a dancer, but also as a teacher and as a person. Her story is absolutely fantastic. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In the studio to discuss the fascinating facts of Polish history, I'm joined again by Professor Krzysztof JABŁONKA. Professor, thank you for joining us again. We've been looking at the Polish-Ukrainian relations in the 19th century, but if we can move now to the interwar period between the First and the Second World War, how did Polish-Ukrainian relations look at that time? Was there any representation, for example, of Ukrainians in the new Polish political structures?
Although the alliance between Szymon Petlura and Józef Piłsudski was unsuccessful, it was necessary to return to the pre-war borders, at least partially. Poles treated separately Galicia, so the area which was under Austrian annexation, where there was no Russian influence, and separately the area which was detached from the Russian Empire, that is Volhynia. In Volhynia there was a representative of Piłsudski, Henryk Józefski, who conducted a very mild policy. For example, all residents, and particularly the young people of Volhynia, were able to study in Ukrainian. That was the language of the area. It was even supposed that Piłsudski assigned the area to be given back to Ukraine once it became independent. In Galicia, however, it was a bit different, as Ukrainians there were, to put it mildly, a slightly higher level of political organization. They had a National Democracy Party called UNDO, but also a number of other social parties, such as the peasant parties, which had full freedom. The only thing they lacked was territorial autonomy, and that is what the Poles feared the most, because Germans would immediately demand a similar one on the western border, and this would be tantamount to the bursting of the state. Then it was agreed that Ukrainians will settle for what they were given, at least for the time being, and Poles would not apply repression against them. However, there appeared a party subsidized by German Abwehr, which had the task to break this alliance. It was the so-called Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, a party which essentially called itself nationalist and had fascist features. The party tried to spoil Polish-Ukrainian contacts, and the better they were, the more assassinations were organized to provoke repressions from Poland, because the worse the Ukrainians were, this party was doing better. Its leader was officer Yevhen Konovalets, and when Soviet agents murdered him using an explosive device planted in a box of chocolates in Rotterdam, the faction split into two subgroups. One of them was led by Andriy Melnik. They were more similar to the intelligentsia, while the other, led by Stepan Bandera, was more populist and radical. The latter group was clearly hostile and had fascist characteristics. For instance, they carried out an assassination attempt on the Polish minister Bronisław Piracki on Warsaw's Vauxhall Street, which was later named after him. That act led to repressions being forced on Ukrainians. One of the consequences of the assassination attempt on Bronisław Piracki was Piłsudski's consent to the so-called KRZYSZTOF, or Cheka, repressive Soviet secret police, or the establishment of a concentration camp for Ukrainians in Bereza Kartuska. In no way did this camp resemble later camps created by the Germans. It was truly an isolation camp, but people were not murdered there. Its biggest fault was the fact that one could be sent there for up to 3 months without going through a trial. People were sent there just like that, as a preventive measure for those who were suspected of any actions. Although some of the people who were caught for the preparation of this assassination attempt were sentenced to death, none of them ended up being executed. All of them were sent to prisons and were released in 1939. They were the most anti-Polish group, which led to the terrible massacre of over 120,000 Poles in Volhynia and Podolia in 1933.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on this episode, so it remains for me to say thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and do join us again on Poland Daily History.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel. We're glad you could make it, and remember, watch us because we're watching you. In this series of episodes, we'll be going to the PRL Museum.
Waiting for a ride, feeling like a loner. No.
That's right, the museum of what Poland was like under the communist regime. It's a fascinating look at the past and back into a time that we don't have to live in anymore, thankfully. But nonetheless, a full range of communist kitsch is on display. There's a little cafe serving treats of the time, as well as coffee made in an ancient machine. Still tasty in its own way. There are plenty of artifacts of the time on display. There's even the reconstruction of a small flat of the time with all the kinds of machines, utensils, and clothing that you would have seen, not to mention furnishings and furniture. It's all a truly guilty pleasure. After the People's Republic of Poland Museum, we'll go to the shooting range at FSO. And my guest, Maria Kadzielska, will learn to shoot. She'll be shooting for the first time. This is the safest and most popular shooting range in Poland, where all the major competitions are held. And it's located in the old FSO factory. So stay tuned for thrills and spills on the next series of episodes of Poland Daily Travel. I'm Will Richardson. Thanks for watching.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. And we appreciate you watching. We're having a fascinating time here at the PRL Museum in beautiful downtown Warsaw. I'm accompanied by Jacek
Pilachowski, yes, very good.
Who is, there's a check with you. You're the expert on your name. All I can do, I'm expert at not saying it right. So you can help me.
No,
I was okay. I was okay. All right. Good. Feel better. Now, we are stepping into the past here at the Museum of the PRL, the Polish People's Republic, and we're actually standing in the foyer of a flat that would have been, what time is this from? Would you say?
We have a combination of furnitures here from 50s to 70s.
The 50s to
Most
70s.
of the furnitures come, I would say, from 70s here. For example, with this folded bed, which was very, very popular at that time. And it was a dream of teenagers, for example, to have their own room with this kind of bed.
Yeah, because then you could, sometimes they even had a back and they could become a double, right?
You could fold it back and you could have your desk.
Mm-hmm.
So you could sleep on it, you could work on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting popularity again. We're coming back with the same idea now.
To conserve space.
Yeah, to save
because accommodation is expensive, life is expensive, yeah. And, you know, they had these things in the States called Murphy beds, which you would pull down out of the wall and put back on.
Yeah.
That was very popular in say, the 1920s in the United States. At any rate, we have all the usual suspects, don't we? Here's the television from, what sort of time was this from?
It's one of the first Polish television produced. I just got it a few days ago from a man. He called me and said, I could give you my old TV set. And you know what? It has to be like from end of 50s or 60s, early 60s, because the design and the look, it really proves that it's quite old, from the beginning of the TV in Poland.
From when did people start having TV?
TV started in Poland early 60s, yeah.
Would have been early 60s.
Early 60s or end of 50s.
Right at the end of 50s,
I would have to check,
So about 10 years behind, or so behind the United States or Britain, yeah. Anyway, that's a fascinating box from the past.
I wish I could run it again.
Yeah, wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah, I'm thinking what to do to...
How to get it fixed? Probably somebody can fix it. Anyway, it says made by Universal in Poland. Was that a big company that was making stuff at the time?
Probably one of the very few company, or the only one which produced it at that time.
Was doing those kind of things. Wow. Yeah, and you beautifully produced this even with pictures from the times. It's fantastic. Here we see a wedding photograph, typical wedding photograph. That's 50s or 60s? Could even be 70s.
This is rather like 50s or even end of 40s.
Because they've done something funny with their faces, haven't they? They sort of painted.
They look like painted or like made in a computer.
It's wild, isn't it? That they've made them look so artificial. They don't look real. They look like mannequins. Yeah. And of course, picture of the Pope. That's a later thing.
Yeah.
But a very important mainstay of every Polish household when he was the Pope, John Paul II. And here we have the basic kitchen stuff. Now this is interesting because here we have the basic 10 pots made this very basic style, rather heavy, and you can still find those if you move into a flat where they haven't thrown things away. You can still find things like that. But this is interesting. Polish ceramics, pottery.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about that, because this is very special in Poland.
We have some very famous factories which produced it. Now, unfortunately, some of them disappear from the market. But at that time, it was very popular, and it was hard to get it because most of the production was exported out of Poland.
Yeah, because that was a way for the state to make some money. Yeah. In fact, a lot of these kind of businesses are going out of business now because people aren't using this kind of stuff on a regular basis anymore.
Yeah.
They're using, stuff from Swedish-made stuff. It's very cheap. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not so elegant. What else have we got? You want to show?
Yeah, what I want to show you is this was a dream.
Yeah.
Pepsi was, I think it was first before Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
They went to, they came.
They were here first.
They were here first, and it was of course a dream. It wasn't available all the time. What we have all the time available was oranżada. By the way, we have in the museum oranżada, which is soft drink. Which is produced based on the recipe from 1948 by the same producer, and it tastes like years ago.
So I can buy that oranżada here.
Yeah, you can buy, you can drink, and
I remember people drink this. I had this when I was a kid, and they looked for it because they're still kind of addicted to that.
Yeah.
I guess it's a sort of comfortable taste.
Very original taste, I would say.
Very original.
Very original.
A bit like gasoline and... No, never mind. Yeah. Okay, and over here we have the workspace, the bookcases, which you find in every Polish house. You find a bookcase with a few of the classics in the old days.
I have to comment here.
Yeah, please
If you look on this side of this apartment, it was more like worker flat. Here, with this kind of furniture, it's more like white collar worker or more educated people. With furniture, this furniture, for example, is more sophisticated. It's not like from mass production. So, yeah, this is what I want to say.
And the old reel-to-reel,
very old.
the tape recorder, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, oh, here, and look at this. We've got Kobiety i Życie, that's Women and Life.
Life, yes.
And it's from 1979. From the 3rd of June, 1979. Look at that. And that's Woman and Life magazine from that time. That's great. I love the old magazines. Being a journalist, I used to write for all those papers and magazines, so I still love to touch a magazine like that. It's a piece of history. And what's all this about here?
It tells you the stories about how people really lived, what was the design, how the flats were really set by people, how hard it was to get the furniture, because it was the same as with this car. You couldn't just go to a store and just say, I want this and that furniture. You had to enroll, wait, and then whatever you got, you were happy. The quality of the mass production was, mass-produced furnitures were not often very good, but you were anyway happy if you could get something.
So what was the key to happiness, living in a flat like this? Or just having a flat like this? Was that the key to happiness?
Just having a flat like this. Again, your own flat was amazing, not because of shortage of money, but because of shortage of space in the flat.
And that was because so much had been destroyed in the war.
Yeah, if you could get your own flat, it was,
So if you had your own flat and your own little Fiat...
You see, you always had an objective in your life.
The next thing to get.
Yeah, first to get a flat. If you had the flat, then how to get some furniture. Then to get a car. And it's 30 years has passed.
That'll keep you busy for most of your life.
30 years.
Jacek, thanks. We're going to take a further look around. We really appreciate you having us. Listen, I can't tell you how much you need to come and see this museum. You need to see what the past was like. You need to see also how much better you have it now. We remember the past so that we see how to make the future better. And no better place to see that than right here at the PRL Museum in beautiful downtown Warsaw. That's the People's Republic of Poland Museum. stop on by for a blast from the past. I want to thank Jacek for having us.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you.
See you next time.